Finally, in the skies, Ukraine receives its first F-16 jets. New operation by Ukrainian intelligence: what was destroyed on the combat mission? Likely a first in history, the Ukrainian FPV damages Russian attack helicopter. Hi, I'm Zhenya Melnik and this is UNITED24 Media. Russian forces shelled the town of Kostyantynivka in Donetsk region. At least 14 people were killed and 43 injured, reported the Office of the Prosecutor General. Russians attacked the city with a Ha-38 missile, hitting the supermarket in the city center, stated the regional governor. Emergency services are working on site. Russia lost a Su-34 fighter bomber and an ammunition depot due to Ukraine's strike on the Morozovsk airfield in Russia's Rostov region. Two more aircraft were possibly damaged, reported the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, who shared satellite images showing the result of the attack. Also, 4 maintenance buildings and 2 aircraft hangars at the Morozovsk airfield suffered clearly visible damage. Drones attacked a military airfield in Russia's Lipetsk region, causing a fire. The local governor reported on the detonation of explosive objects and damage to a power facility. According to the General Staff of Ukraine, this airfield houses Su-34, Su-35 and MiG-31 aircraft and a depot with 700 guided aerial bombs used by Russian army to bombard Ukraine. During the attack, the depots and several other facilities near the airfield were hit. The first F-16 fighter jets are already in Ukraine, as confirmed by President Volodymyr Zelensky. These advanced aircraft have already begun performing combat missions, marking a crucial step to enhancing the Ukrainian Air Force. Long-awaited F-16s have finally taken to the skies in Ukraine, carrying out combat missions. President Zelensky has announced the arrival of the first Danish-provided fighter jets.
Now this is the reality in our skies. F-16s are in Ukraine. The enemy does not and will not dominate in the skies of our country. It has been so since the first days of the war, and will always be so. The Russian occupier was hoping to destroy our Ukrainian aviation and air defense, and our ability to defend our own country. But Ukrainians did not allow this to happen, and this is real heroism.
Due to security reasons, the exact amount and details about types of operations are undisclosed.
I can't tell you in detail which missions our first F-16 jets will undertake or have already undertaken. But in any case, the partners know the numbers. The number of jets and the number of trained pilots we have in Ukraine is not enough yet. But the positive thing is that we are expecting additional F-16s. The positive thing is that many guys are now training.
Symbolically, this announcement coincided with the Ukrainian Air Forces Day. President Zelensky honored several airmen and brigades with awards on this occasion. Ukraine had the chance to strike numerous Russian aircraft, but the US did not allow it, reports Forbes. According to the publication, earlier this summer, the 47th Guards Bomber Aviation Regiment of the Russian Air Force openly positions dozens of Su-34 jets on the Voronezh-Malyshevo Air Base, only 160 kilometers from the border. Ukrainian forces requested permission to launch their most advanced American-made Army tactical missile system rockets at the well-defended Russian airbase. These missiles are nearly impossible to intercept. However, the Biden administration denied permission for fears of escalation. According to Frontintelligence Insight, the mid-June to mid-July, Russian forces relocated most of their valuable military assets away from the border zone with Ukraine. Ukrainian armed forces announced the destruction of Russian submarine Rostov-on-Don in the temporarily occupied Crimea. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that the cost of the submarine was approximately $300 million. The submarine was initially damaged on September 13, 2023, during a Ukrainian attack which caused serious damage to the bow and central sections. Despite the damage, Russia claimed that it could repair and return the vessel to service. However, after the latest attack, the Russian submarine Rostov-on-Don was completely sunk. Ukrainian intelligence conducted a covert operation on Tendrivska Spit near Crimea. The amphibious group of Ukrainian scouts landed during the night, completed their combat tasks and left without casualties. Throughout the operation, a multi-purpose light armored personnel carrier, an electronic warfare complex, and Russian fortifications were destroyed. Ukraine's main intelligence directorate raided the Tendrivska Spit. Footage shared by the intelligence agency shows the operatives raising the Ukrainian flag on the key Russian position in the Mykolaiv region. According to the directorate, the raid resulted in the elimination of 30 Russian soldiers and the destruction of 6 armored personnel carriers. Azov Brigade member Alexander Ishchenko has died in a Russian pretrial detention center due to physical violence. According to the autopsy report, his death was caused by blunt force chest trauma resulting in multiple ribcage fractures and shock. This was stated by Azov's deputy commander Svetoslav Palamar on his official Facebook page. Before the full-scale invasion, 55-year-old Alexander Ishchenko was a sailor who joined the Azov Brigade in February 2022. He defended Mariupol and was captured by Russians in May that year. The UN reports that more than 95% of Ukrainian prisoners of war are tortured in Russia. This was confirmed by Danielle Bell, head of United Nations Human Rights Monitoring Missions in Ukraine, during a Netherlands national news broadcast.
The torture is widespread, regular. It happens in these facilities. It's happened to more than 95% of the Ukrainian POWs. Without question, the torture of Ukrainian POWs would amount to a war crime.
Bell also stated that according to UN findings, the POWs are beaten with metal rods and sticks, stripped naked and electrocuted.
It's horrific. It's certainly the worst that I've seen in my career of 20 years in the UN, visiting places of detention.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the allocation of additional funding for a domestic missile program. In his evening address, he underlined that it will increase the amount of these missiles.
The staff made a decision on our missile program to increase funding. Separately, the Minister of Defense reported on the provision of weapons to our brigades and on relevant negotiations with our partners. I'm grateful to all those around the world who are truly willing to support us in the way we need in order to achieve results now and in the future.
Zelensky also stated that Ukrainian manufacturers have already contracted 1 million drones for this year, with plans to expand production even further. Meanwhile, in July, Ukrainian defense and security forces used more drones than Russians, marking a strategic advantage that Ukrainian military aims to maintain. They build drones as well as train as FPV pilots. This platoon of foreign volunteers was created by the 25th Separate Airborne Brigade. These volunteers come from all over the world. Military experience is not required, only the desire to work hard.
I'm Audrey with UNITED24. We're here at a secret location where foreigners are working with Ukrainians to build drones as well as to train as FPV pilots. Now, we'll be showing you a little bit about what we're seeing here, but we can't show you a whole lot. And that's because we've just been told that Russians can actually identify this location just by things like the view of the windows, the crux of the ceiling, and other very small details that we see around here. The 25th Separate Airborne Brigade is pioneering the first ever platoon made up entirely of foreign volunteers. These volunteers have come from all over the world. Military experience is not required, just a desire to work hard and serve Ukraine. Toby, tell me where you're from and when you came out here.
Yeah, I'm from about 60 miles north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. In the last 5 years, I've lived in the metro area of Minneapolis.
What's your higher cause?
Freedom. Ukrainians deserve freedom. And the Russians need to stop, they need to piss off in my country's affairs. You know, if they stop doing that, you know, they can go back to Russia, but in the context of Ukraine, they have to be destroyed.
When volunteers arrive, they learn how to become drone engineers as well as drone operators. Here we are in the place where they'll learn how to operate these drones on simulators just here behind me. They might look like video games, but for these trainees, it's deadly serious. Been here for just about 2 years. When you first arrived, you went through a similar training to what we're seeing here behind you in terms of operating drones on simulators. Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah, so you usually start out on a simulator like this to just get the basic muscle memory of how to operate the sticks correctly. But then you move on to line of sight flying without the goggles with a physical drone outside. Once you get past that, you graduate to flying a physical drone just in a basic flight in the air, figure eights, loops, circling.
They're telling us that the success rate of these drones is 25%, with casualties now 60 to 70% of them from drones, no longer bombs, bullets, or artillery shells. This is a huge step forward in terms of cost and efficiency. What used to take a $2,000 to $3,000 unguided shell can now be done with a $200 to $300 drone. Next, I head to the 3D printing lab to meet Lewis from Ireland.
As you can see behind me, we have a lot of 3D printers operating right now. They're all printing off different models that will be used for slightly different objectives. Each of the printer costs just over £1,000, and then they can run almost 24/7, but just constantly producing different parts of munitions.
How the heck did you end up here being a 19-year-old from Ireland and now really manning this quite big operation?
Yeah. So when I first came to Ukraine, I was mostly involved in the NGO scene for a number of months. And then kind of over time, you get the feeling that there's a little bit more you can do. As obviously, it's very important to treat the symptoms of the war, try and alleviate some of the suffering, but as well, I felt some obligation to try and also help you to achieve victory.
Today we've seen volunteers like Lewis from all over the world, from England, from the United States, who have come to Ukraine to help. They're showing extreme bravery, they're working together alongside Ukrainians to build drones. And what this signifies is a larger thing that's happening in Ukraine, where the whole landscape is shifting towards drone warfare and supporting that. I think you're going to see a lot more units like this one that we've seen today in the future. Robotic dogs were recently spotted on the front line. In a video shared by the 28th Mechanized Brigade, the Unit 3 Go-To Pro model was seen conducting reconnaissance for Ukrainian ground forces in the city of Tendrivska. The robot dog is equipped with a 4D LiDAR sensor and an upgraded recognition system. This allows the soldiers to safely gather intel and minimize the risk of coming under enemy fire during street battles. British military officials have been alerted to potential espionage activities by Russian agents, reported The Times. They may be using drones to monitor the training of Ukrainian soldiers in the UK. According to the report, Russian intelligence agencies have expressed interest in the Interflex military training program, which is preparing Ukrainian troops. Observations suggest that Russian agents have been operating drones over British military training sites and have also attempted to acquire information from military instructors through online and direct interactions. The UK Ministry of Defence has already introduced stringent security measures to protect military facilities and staff. The European Union is considering the possibility of expelling Hungary from the Schengen zone due to recent policy changes. Earlier, the Hungarian government eased restrictions on security checks for Russian and Belarusian workers, allowing them to stay in the country with their families for up to 2 years. European Parliament members collected 70 signatures under a letter demanding consideration of new measures to protect its European citizens. This would include new security clearances at Hungarian borders if necessary. In Romania, construction is underway as a communist-era airfield is being transformed into NATO's largest military base. The Mihail Kogalnicianu base, located 97 kilometers from Ukraine, is estimated to become even larger than the Ramstein air base in Germany. According to the president of Romania, Klaus Iohannis, this expansion will allow the alliance to make decisions regarding rapid force deployment from Romanian soil in the event of a sudden and severe emergency. The EU Council approves €4.2 billion in aid to Ukraine. This was announced by the Hungarian presidency of the EU Council in an official ex-post. Under the Ukraine Facility Program, the funds will support macro-financial stability and the functioning of public administration. The French Ministry of the Armed Forces commented on the course of events in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation, stated that the offensive of the Ukrainian armed forces has had some initial success.
This was posted by the ministry on their X page. Earlier, the White House spokesperson mentioned that Washington had no prior knowledge of the operation and that U.S. officials are going to contact Ukrainian counterparts for details about the situation in the Kursk region.
We have to remember that obviously in this region there's Russian troops there. They are in a region of Russia, and they're in that region attacking Ukraine. And so we can't forget that, but our House policy has not changed. We're going to continue certainly to support Ukraine as they continue to defend themselves.
Ukraine has the right to self-defense and can strike Russian territory was also mentioned by the European Commission spokesman on foreign policy issues Peter Stano, speaking to journalists of Ukrainian public broadcaster Suspilne. Ukrainian officials are still keeping silent and haven't commented on the situation. But in his evening address on August 9th, the president of Ukraine stated that it was Russia who brought the war to Ukraine, and Russia should understand what they have done.
It's the morning of August 6. The acting governor of the Kursk region reported on incursions at the state lines, later claiming that Ukrainians had attacked Russian border guard units at nearby settlements. Unverified footage depicts armored personnel carriers storming the border and advancing through the neighboring settlements. Ukrainian officials have so far remained silent. In the evening, however, the Russian Ministry of Defense issued a statement claiming the situation was under control. The next day, Russian self-proclaimed President Vladimir Putin held a meeting with the heads of the military to discuss the situation in the region. The generals made assertions to put an end to the incursion in the Kursk region. Later that day, footage emerged of at least 40 Russian soldiers surrendering at the border point of Sudzha. The location was identified after the release of the video. At the same time, Russian military bloggers reported that Moscow has lost control of 11 settlements in the region. The civilian population of the border town of Sudzha is being evacuated. All residents of the Kursk region who are forced to flee will receive a monetary compensation of $115 issued in a decree by Putin. Unverified claims regarding the capturing of a gas metering station in Sudzha surfaced in the Washington Post. The metering station is an important part of the Russian gas pipeline. As of August 9, new combat footage emerged revealing the aftermath of a possible Ukrainian HIMARS strike on the amassing Russian column in the region. As of now, according to the Institute for the Study of War, this offensive covers at least 450 square kilometers of the Russian border region of Kursk, encompassing 30 settlements. The head of the Kurchatov administration is reporting intense battles taking place 10 kilometers away from the Kursk nuclear power plant.
A known Ukraine activist Serhiy Sternenko reported that Ukraine targeted a Russian Mi-28 helicopter using an FPV drone, the first such case in history. He also shared a video of this. According to Sternenko, the operation was conducted on the Russian Kursk territory by a group of drone operators of the Security Service of Ukraine using an FPV drone paid by Ukrainian donations. The date and time of this video is unknown. Ukraine announced the mandatory evacuation of 23 towns in the Sumy region. The plan to evacuate 6,000 people, including 425 children, was announced by Volodymyr Artyukh, the head of the Sumy region military administration. The scale of the operation will affect a 10-kilometer border zone. Artyukh assured that despite the intensity of the situation in the Sumy region, the Ukrainian armed forces are doing everything to repel Russia's attacks, including ballistic missiles. More than 5,000 people have been rescued by the Ukrainian State Emergency Service since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. This number was shared on the Telegram channel of the SES. They also underlined that since February 24, 2022, rescuers have put out almost 20,500 fires. Dozens of women have decided to join the military volunteer formation of the Bucha territorial community. It is supported by local authorities, and one of their main tasks is air defense. The town of Bucha, close to Kyiv, became known worldwide after the devastation inflicted there by Russian forces. The settlement was under Russian occupation for 1 month in 2022, and hundreds of people were killed during that time.
My husband and his brother were killed in March 2022. Our property was destroyed. There was a direct hit on our apartment. My mother got sick and couldn't take it all and died too. So my motivation. Since June, my nephew has been missing in action in the Avdiivka direction. So I do have motivation. I am very angry with the invaders.
In life before the full-scale Russian invasion, Tatiana was a tour guide. Now she has joined an all-female air defense unit, Bucha Witches.
If it so happens that I shoot down one Shahed drone, I will consider my goal on Earth is complete. I just don't want it to cause any pain.
The Bucha Witches unit is part of the military volunteer formation of the Bucha territorial community. Dozens of women have decided to become volunteers to have the opportunity to protect their families and their country.
I used to have a completely peaceful occupation. I was a teacher. But now the war changes people and one has to adapt to the new reality. I don't want anything to fall on my kids' heads. I have to control this process.
Alona, who is a mother of 3 children, trains next to Olena. They were both teachers before 2022.
There are women that can help too. A lot of men are being sent closer to the front line. I think that women could hold their front line here, like the witches, to shoot down Shaheds. We can do this the same as men do.
The main task of this volunteer military formation is to support the police and to protect the skies. It is supported by the local administration.
We have to help the country. I've been sitting for 2 years since the full-scale invasion. I have nothing to do with the military, and I regret not joining earlier.
Two more medals for Ukraine at the Paris Olympics. Ukrainian wrestler Parvis Nasibov wins the silver medal in men's Greco-Roman 67 kilos. Later the same day, Ukrainian athlete and current Ukrainian Member of Parliament Jan Beleniuk won the bronze medal in men's Greco-Roman 87 kilograms. At the end of the fight, Beleniuk put his shoes in the center of the mat. This is a symbolic gesture which a wrestler uses to announce the end of their career. Ukrainian athletes Ludmila Luzan and Anastasia Rybachok both won silver medals in the Olympic canoe sprint for the women's 500 meters. Ukrainian boxer Alexander Khizhniak has secured the gold medal in boxing at the 2024 Olympics in Paris in the 80-kilogram middleweight class. In the final match, he defeated Kazakhstan's athlete with all 5 judges favoring the Ukrainian. This marks Khizhniak's second Olympic final appearance. At the Tokyo 2020 Games, he had to settle for a silver medal after narrowly missing out on victory in the final round. Ilya Kovtun won the silver with his parallel bars performance on Monday, August 5th. The gymnast scored 15.5 points, overtaking the Japanese athlete. Kyiv Zoo celebrated the 50th anniversary of its resident Tony the gorilla. To mark the occasion, the zoo put on a 4-day birthday party, including a special celebratory feast for the gorilla. Tony was born in 1974 and had lived in various different zoos around the world before arriving in Kiev.
During the air raid sirens, we hid him. He was a bit stressed at first, but we managed to avoid major issues. Within 2 minutes after the siren goes off, we ask him to go indoors. There are no bomb shelters for animals in the zoo. If something happens, we must be around to help them.
This is it for today. We are United24 Media. Thank you for being with us and see you next week.